Hey guys, so I just wanted to offer my quick thoughts on the documentary Woodstock 99. I'm really late to this one. This came out in August. I'm reviewing it in December. Reason for that is because I'm catching up on movies to do a best of 2021 video, and I want to watch as many movies as possible. This documentary got a lot of buzz when it came out, so I wanted to give it a shot, see what all the hubbub was about. Did I like this documentary? Well, if you looked at the title of this video, I did not like the documentary. Let me just take out my notes real quick. I probably should have done this before doing my video. Yikes. All right, there we go. So, for those of you who don't know the story behind Woodstock 99, there were three Woodstocks: Woodstock 69, Woodstock 94, and then finally Woodstock 99. And the reason why it stopped at 99 is because it was such a catastrophe. A lot of shit went down in Woodstock 99. And while Woodstock 69 is remembered for being this big peace and love festival, flower power, hippie movement, Woodstock 99 is not as well remembered for reasons like fires, sexual assaults, sewage problems, deaths, etc. Everything you would expect at a festival gone wrong. So I watched this festival, not this festival, sorry, this documentary because I heard a lot of buzz about it, and I thought it was very underwhelming, and it's a perfect example on how not to do a documentary. So let's go through it. Let's start with the things I liked about the documentary. I liked when the documentary talked about a certain identity crisis that was going on in the 90s. And they showed a clip from Fight Club at some point in this film, which Fight Club is a representation of that. And that identity crisis, that feeling of, wow, okay, my father went to Woodstock 69 and the Vietnam War was going on, and what are people going to remember us for? That kind of identity crisis is really reflective in the art that came out in the 90s. Like I said, the movie Fight Club, but also the music, which they go into in depth, and they say a lot of stuff that I disagree with. So, yeah, talking about that identity crisis, relating it to the political climate at the time, and how it affected entertainment, all that was pretty interesting. And the story of Woodstock 99 is interesting in its own, where when you talk about the sewage problems, for instance, that is going to be interesting because it's just something so outlandish. It's definitely going to evoke a reaction out of the audience. Where the documentary kind of misses the mark, I can compare this to a documentary like that The Shining documentary that came out a few years ago, the Stanley Kubrick documentary, where it's just people hyper focusing on something and it doesn't really equate. There are a few things that are just missing the mark in this documentary. For example, there's a part where Wyclef Jean from the Fugees is doing a guitar solo, and the people talking, the different people commentating, are saying that the reason why it got negative reception is either white supremacy or because people didn't get the Jimi Hendrix reference. He was doing the national anthem on his guitar. So that's what people were kind of implying when they were commentating on that moment. I hate to say it because I'm a fan of Wyclef Jean. I'm a fan of the Fugees. People were booing because it kind of sucked. Like, go back and listen to it. It kind of sucked. Now, Wyclef Jean, great musician. The Fugees, great musicians. Everyone has a bad concert every now and then. You can look at Freddie Mercury, and he has some bad concerts. But that's kind of why they were booing. I don't think it was some white supremacy thing. And that's kind of like an overarching theme that was going on in this. They always tried to relate everything to white supremacy, where I didn't find it fit in this story. And there's some moments where it really just stuck out like a sore thumb. Now, if you wanted to talk about misogyny that was going on, I feel like that's a fair argument to make. A lot of the entertainment that was coming out, when you look at new metal and rap at the time, it was almost like a man's game, and it was very hard for a woman to break through, and the sexual assaults. I feel like the case for misogyny that this documentary does is a little more valid than the claim of white supremacy that was going on in here. And they kind of tailor the past just to make that white supremacy theme kind of more relevant, even though it wasn't true. There's a part in this, they spend a good chunk of time talking about how the set list that the organizers came up with was riddled with white supremacists and music for white supremacists. And a lot of artists in that set list, they don't even talk about it, but a large portion of that set list is black artists. I have a list here. There's James Brown, Wyclef Jean, George Clinton, which they didn't show in the documentary, The Roots, he was in the documentary, one of them. Al Green wasn't in the documentary. Ice Cube wasn't in the documentary. DMX was in the documentary. So there were a lot of black performers in here. So I don't understand why they were saying that, oh, they were just asking for trouble because all of the artists are artists that are only relevant to white supremacists, where in fact there were a lot of artists in there that are not just appealing to that kind of crowd. And that's a second problem I have. They really do nu metal dirty. If you're a fan of Kid Rock, if you're a fan of Limp Bizkit, oh, sorry, I had a burp. Got a little acid reflux going on. But yeah, if you're a fan of Limp Bizkit, they really do you dirty in this documentary. I would not recommend this documentary to a Limp Bizkit fan because they basically say if you're a fan of Limp Bizkit, you're a douchey frat boy, and that's it. Which I know plenty of. I'm not a fan of Limp Bizkit, to be quite honest. But I know plenty of people who are fans of Limp Bizkit, and they're not douchey white frat boys who go around sexually assaulting women. It's just such a gross simplification. They do the same thing with Kid Rock. There was this whole segment in here that just completely didn't fit in the documentary where they talk about Napster and how Lars Ulrich was against Napster, and they're kind of just pinning it like, oh, look at these elitists, look at Metallica, these elitists. They don't want the poor guys to get the music, they're elitists. And it was just so out of nowhere in this documentary. And at a certain point, I'm like, what is this documentary trying to be? Because there were some big moments in Woodstock 99 that weren't even in the documentary. Insane Clown Posse is barely in the documentary. And they were doing some outrageous shit. They were beating up cops on stage. That wasn't in the documentary. But we had to spend some time talking about how Limp Bizkit was music for douchey white frat boys. We had to spend some time talking about Napster, which totally didn't fit in here. Nu metal, what they do with nu metal is completely gross in this movie. First of all, they lump Rage Against the Machine in the same category as Limp Bizkit. Even if you were to make the argument that, okay, douchey white frat boys are into Limp Bizkit. Okay, I'll give you that one. I won't, but let's pretend I do. But then you throw Rage Against the Machine in that? That's not music for douchey white frat boys. Okay? It's rising up against authority. A lot of the shit Rage Against the Machine says in their music is actually stuff that is spouted out today in 2021. Their most famous song has the lyric, "Some of those that wear forces are the same that burn crosses." Oh! That was my impression of Rage Against the Machine. So I don't get why they're saying nu metal is this very white supremacist genre. It's just not true. I don't know why they kept saying that. And I don't get what white supremacy had to do in this documentary. There were plenty of black artists at Woodstock 99. I will admit the large majority of the people at this festival were white frat boys. I don't think it's because of the set list, though. I just think because the people who can afford to go to these festivals are the kids of rich parents, and those tend to be white frat boys. It's just the way it is. Like, so that's why the population there was mostly white frat boys. I just don't understand the claim that it was doomed from the start. They put too many like white supremacist appealing performers. The ending of this documentary is what's most jarring. It turns into a flat out advertisement for Coachella. Okay, that came out of nowhere. So they're basically saying Woodstock was a disaster, but don't worry, 3 months later, Coachella came around, the first Coachella, and everything lived happily ever after, which is definitely not the case. There are plenty of crazy shit that happens at Coachella. Coachella is far from perfect. Now, it's not as bad as Woodstock 99, but it's not like it came and saved the day. The way you end this documentary, the documentary starts and they say, Woodstock 69, we have good memories of it. We have these rose tinted glasses, but there was some dark shit that happened in Woodstock 69. The way you end the documentary is you reflect back on Woodstock 69 and you say, wait a minute, a lot of the stuff that happened in Woodstock 99 actually happened in Woodstock 69. The sewage problem, for instance, also happened in Woodstock 69. Now, in Woodstock 99, it was due to a pipe bursting. In Woodstock 69, it was due to massive amounts of rain, but people were still rolling around in shit. So, do we just have rose tinted glasses for Woodstock 69? I'm sure at that time there were a lot of sexual assaults that happened. It just went underreported. I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't know if it's true. But this is the kind of you related back to Woodstock. Do we just have rose tinted glasses of the past? But instead, we just get some weird advertisement for Coachella. It came to save the day. It's in Palm Springs, and the vegetation is green, and you can lie down under a tree. It just felt like the laziest documentary ever. And it was such an interesting subject matter. They had so many good people doing this documentary. Korn's in the documentary. Uh, the singer of the Roots is in the documentary. Uh, they have a lot of the artists who were performing in the documentary. They also kind of go after DMX in this documentary, and I feel like that was kind of undeserved. Like, sure, he was kind of like routing up the crowd to say the N word, but first of all, the dude just died, so he can't really defend himself. And second of all, maybe he does have a different perspective. I can't tell because this documentary is so skewed one way. I can't tell what's fact and what's just very skewed information. So if you see Woodstock 99 on my worst of 2021 list, it's because there's some information in there that's just not representative of the time, and it kind of just falsifies the whole documentary. Because when they said that the set list is predominantly white douchey frat boy artists, I'm sorry, it's not that much, especially compared to Woodstock 69. I think there were more black artists in Woodstock 99, but yeah, it just kind of discredits the whole documentary. So I'm just like, I don't know what's true. Like, yeah. And they don't really go after the organizers of the party hard enough. If you guys want to see a documentary about a festival gone wrong, just watch Fire Festival, the documentary on Netflix. It's a much better time. This one felt very one-sided, very lazy. It felt like some art student or some university student tried to be really deep when something was really not that deep. Kind of felt very, dare I say, pretentious. So if you want to watch Woodstock 99, don't say I didn't warn you. I'll see you guys around.